Morning, everybody. Today's Monday, and we're getting ready for another week here. First, I want to start out with a couple reminders. Number one, there are only 3 weeks left. Okay, and where you're at right now, you are so close. Okay, you're gonna have 3 assignments this week, two assignments and a quiz. You'll have 2 assignments the following week. That's 5, and then 3 the last week. That's 8. There's 8 more assignments, and you're done. Okay. So that's just a little bit of encouragement. Okay, I've had a couple people that performance has kind of dipped a little bit. Let's just keep rolling. Okay, and the reason for that is this is a high school class, and from everything that's been indicated so far, this is going to go on your GPA no matter how you do. So finish strong, get the grade that you guys all deserve, and let's finish it up right. Okay. I do, as you can see on my canvas here, I only had 23 people turn in the day 2 assignments. So I'm missing about 4 of those. So let's get those in as well if you're someone that's missing that. All right. Let's just roll through the calendar real quick. It's Monday, May 4th. Okay. We're going to do section 11.9, solving radical expressions. Okay. I think it's very easy. And then we'll work on section 11.9 assignment. We're going to complete that. We're going to turn it in on Tuesday. Wednesday, I'll have a review video. Thursday, make sure that's due. And then Friday will be a quiz day where I post the quiz and you got all day to do it. Okay? So just pretty much a normal week with a quiz at the end there. We've done this routine 2 other times, so it shouldn't be anything crazy. Okay? Let's get started. All right, so like I said, we're doing section 11.9, solving radical expression or equations. It is only a 1 day thing. There's no day 1 and day 2 here. Okay, so I also put the guided notes, so feel free to download and print the guided notes. If not, you should just be taking notes on a piece of paper somewhere here. Okay, so a radical equation is an equation that contains a variable within a radical. A variable and a radical. Recall that you use inverse operations to solve equations. For non-negative numbers, squaring and taking the square root are inverse operations. Okay, let's definitely mark that so we can remember that. Okay, squaring and taking the square root are inverse operations. Okay, so normally when we're adding, we subtract, or if we're multiplying, we divide. Okay, and if we and then of course the opposite. If we're subtracting, we add, and if we're dividing, we multiply. But here, if there's a square root, we square it. If there's a square root here, we're going to square it, and you'll see that in a little bit here. Anything else there? Nope. Okay. So best thing I think to do is to look at a couple examples. All right, example 1, solve the equation, check your answer. Okay, so we've got radical x equals 5. Okay, and like I mentioned, we have a radical, and the inverse of getting rid of that is to square it. Ooh, excuse me. Okay, so we can square here, and I can square there. Okay, and when I square here and square here, this is the inverse, so this cancels out the radical and the squared, and I'm left with just x. And then I take my 5 squared and I get 25. Okay. And again, you can always go back and plug in at 25 for x and check your answer. Okay, B. Again, we've got to cancel out our radical here, so I square this side. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do to the other. So that cancels out my radical and my square root, and I'm left with 2x on this side. And then I take 100 or 10 squared and get 100. From there, then I divide by 2 and divide by 2, and I'm left with x equals 50. Last one here, I can square and square. This cancels out the radical. I'm left with just 3x on the left side. 1 squared is just 1. And then if I divide by 3, I'm left with x equals 1/3. And again, you can always go back up with your original equation, plug in the x value. Okay. Here. Now, this is an important thing that you need to write down, okay? To solve these equations, you may have to isolate the square root before squaring both sides. Okay, if you noticed on, oh, that was a bad highlight there. If you notice on all those first examples we had, it was just a radical or a square root sign by itself on one side. Okay, well, now I've got a radical x minus 4, and I've got a minus 4 attached. So before you can go do the square root on both sides, you need to, oh, hey, I do it online too. You need to add 4, and I end up with, this would be my radical x now by itself, and then equals 5 plus 4 is 9. Now I can square and square. That cancels this out, and I'm left with just x, and then 9 squared is 81. Okay. So that's just, clean it up. We have to get rid of everything around the radical before we solve. Now here, everything is underneath the radical. So we can't subtract 3 first here. And people think, oh, well, I got to get the 3 over there. Well, no, it's underneath the radical as well. So here's just a square and the square. That cancels this out, and I'm left with just x plus 3 on this side, and then 7 squared gets me 49. Then I can subtract 3, and get x equals 46. Okay? So don't fall for the, oh, there's a plus 3 here, I have to subtract it over. If it's underneath the radical here, you just square it. All right. Here, though, plus 2, I'm left with radical x equals 3, and then square and square. That cancels that out right there, and I'm left with x equals 9. Okay. Pretty easy, I'd say, so far. All right, just a little bit longer of one here, but still, there's nothing really new or different here. Okay, I'm going to subtract 6 and subtract 6. That's going to get rid of everything next to the radical. So then I'll have 5x plus 1 here, and then equals 10 minus 6 is 4. Then I square root and square root. These cancel, and I'm left with just 5x plus 1 equals 16. And then from here, it's just solving a two-step equation. Subtract 1, I get 5x equals 15. And divide by 5, x equals 3. Okay? And again, take that x out of that 3, plug it in for x, go check your answer. Okay, same format for this problem. I'm going to add 1, add 1. I'm going to be left with my radical. 3x plus 7 equals 4. Now I can square and square. That cancels that. And I got 3x plus 7 equals 16. If I subtract 7, I get 3x is equal to 9. And I divide by 3, x equals 3. Okay. We have one more here on this page. Yep. Okay, now this one here is like 4 times radical x. So in order to get the the radical x by itself, we have to do the inverse. And the inverse of 4 times would be divide by 4 and divide by 4. Leaves me with just radical x. And then 32 divided by 4 is 8. Now I can square root both sides, cancel that out. I'm left with x equals 64. Okay, moving on. 6 equals radical x over 2. Again, this is divided by 2, so the inverse operation of divided by 2 would be multiply by 2. And I'm going to multiply by 2 on this side. So 6 times 2 is going to be 12. So I have 12 equals radical x. We square both sides now. And we get x is equal to 12 squared, which is 144. Okay. I know I'm going kind of quick. It's just kind of a lot of examples here. There's not much explaining to do. There's nothing new here. Okay. On this one, it's just a 2-step. The first thing before this is just like if it was just 2x. Okay, we've had these before, just not with a radical sign. You want to multiply first to get rid of the fraction, then you can divide by 2. So if I multiply by 5 and multiply by 5, I'm going to have 2 radical x is equal to 20. Then I can divide by 2, and I get radical x is equal to 10. Square and square, that cancels. And I'm left with x equals 100. Okay, so that's just a double step. Okay, last page of examples here. Again, I know I just kind of flew through them, but I'm just kind of working them out. Now I've got radicals on both sides. Okay, and in order to cancel them, I square this side and I square this side. That cancels this radical out. That cancels this radical out. And I'm left, and I'm just left with 2x minus 1 equals x plus 7. And then I go solve from there. So if I add 1 and add 1, I have 2x equals x plus 8. Subtract x, I'm left with x equals 8. Okay. Now here, the radical's not on the same side, but we're just going to put it on opposite sides. So I'm going to add radical 6 and add radical 6. With that being left, I'll have my 5x minus 4 on this side and my radical 6 on that side. Now I can square both sides. That'll cancel. And I'm at 5x minus 4 equals 6. I'll add 4. 5x is equal to 10. Divide by 2. X equals 5. Okay. And again, you can check your work by just plugging it back into the equation. 5 times 5 times 5 here is going to be 25 minus 4. And then we'll solve there, and it'll all equal 0. All right, last one. Same type of format. 2 radicals on both sides of the equal sign, so I'll square and I'll square. That'll cancel, and I'll have 3x plus 2 is equal to x plus 6. And from there, it's just solve. Minus x, I have 2x plus 2 equals 6. Subtract 2, I have 2x equals 4. Divide by 2, x equals 2. Okay? So, nothing too crazy, at least I hope. It's a lot of just solving equations, but I had that one step there where we square root both sides of the radical. Okay? Couple things to remember as you're doing this, okay? We had an example like the middle one here. You've got to get the radical on opposite sides of the equal sign before you square it. So that's one thing to remember. Another thing to remember is that if there's a 2 radical x over 5, you have to multiply first, then go ahead and divide the 2. Something else to remember is we want to get everything away from that radical before we solve, before we square root. And you have to pay attention. I don't need to subtract 1 first because it's still under the radical. All I'm going to do is get rid of the 6 because it was not underneath the radical. Okay? Our homework assignment for today is page 826, numbers 3 through 31, odd. Please only do the odds. Do not do all, what would that be, 28 of them, 29. Do not do that. Only do the odds. And make sure that's turned in by Tuesday. Okay? Just remember what I said at the beginning of the video, okay? This is going towards your high school GPA for you. I mean, obviously for the freshmen, but for you 8th graders and 7th graders as well. Let's finish strong. Let's get a great grade so you guys can move on to high school next year and have a great foundation going forward, okay? It's 8 assignments, and this is one of them. So you finish this one, you got 7 left, and you're done with math, okay? We got a little countdown if you're a countdown person, okay? Hope everybody has a great week. Like always, I'll be on Canvas, okay? If you need a conference, just send me a remind. I appreciate the people that have done that so far and asked questions. The schedule's posted here. And if you have, like I said, if you have any questions, just ask. All right? Thank you. Have a great week. Bye.